Opening day is this week. We've finally almost made it. So on today's show, I'm giving my 5 bold predictions for the Texas Rangers in 2025. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about 5 bold predictions for the Rangers in 2025. We're talking about Jack Leiter thriving in his final spring start, and the Rangers cutting their 2023 Pitcher of the Year. Talk about all that and more. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Now, before we get into the 5 bold predictions, we need to talk about this weekend. The Rangers wrapped up Cactus League play. They are officially back in Arlington. Got a game tonight. Got a game tomorrow. Got a real game on Thursday. The season is almost here. We can quite literally taste it, or I guess more metaphorically. If you're tasting baseball, you may be a little bit too addicted to baseball. But you may be enjoying baseball just a bit too much. But someone who's not enjoying baseball right now, that is Dane Dunning. This was a rough spring for Dane Dunning. I mean, just absolutely brutal. 5 games, 11 innings, and an 8.18 ERA. And last year was no walk in the park for Dane Dunning either. I mean, it's been a tough year plus from Dane Dunning. He talked about this offseason, working to get his body in a little bit better shape, working to cut some of that, extra fat off of himself and, just get himself in better shape. Last year, he pitched 95 innings at an ERA north of 5 and was walking a whole lot of guys, was striking out more than he had in years past, but also giving up a lot of home runs and walking guys and giving up a lot of hits. That's just not a real combination for success unless you are a reliever and you're striking out basically every hitter that you're not allowing a walk or a home run to. It's just not feasible. And the Rangers could have used Dane Dunning at his best, could have used him at his 2023 version of himself, a 3.70 ERA in 26 starts, 35 outings, and led the team in innings in the year that the Rangers won the World Series. He did that. He was the Rangers pitcher of the year they won the World Series. And 2 years later, here he is just cut. This is not just a financial move. I know that there is definitely some financial implications in it because Dane Dunning took literally the maximum pay cut that he could possibly take, $2.66 million. That was the most he could take in arbitration, just by arbitration guidelines. And it still wasn't enough. It was just rough. And the reason he took that pay cut was because he knew he was not doing well. If he didn't want to take that pay cut and risk the Rangers cutting him and putting him on waivers, someone else would have to pay that salary. And now someone will have to pay that salary, or he will just come back around to the Rangers and come back on what is essentially a minor league deal, will not be making $2.66 million this year. Saves the Rangers a little bit of wiggle room in payroll, but they could use some depth. They really could at this point. Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker look good towards the end of spring, very good, and their final spring starts. But behind Dunning now, there's not much depth there for the Rangers in terms of their starting pitching. I mean, maybe it's Adrian Hauser. Apparently his major league deal, if he gets to the major leagues with the Rangers, it's worth around $2.5 million. So, $0.16 million less than Dane Dunning was making this year. He didn't look particularly amazing this spring. He was solid. I think Patrick Murphy is probably more likely to get that final roster spot in the bullpen. I mean, he looked fantastic this spring. Only in his last outing did he finally give up a run this spring. 13 2/3 innings, 13 strikeouts, just 1 walk, and the 1 run came off of a solo home run, a .66 ERA this spring. He looked solid after coming back from Japan. I don't know how much of a factor he's going to play in this Rangers pen for the duration of the season, but I think right now to start the year, he's probably their best option, and he was just straight up a better option than Dunning. He just was. Maybe Caleb Bushley is going to get some of those innings. Maybe we'll end up seeing Rocker or Leiter move to a long man in a pen role. I'm not thinking so. We'll talk more about why later when I get into my bold predictions, but this is just a rough thing for Dane Dunning. It unfortunately seems to be the right move because Dunning he just wasn't good, and that's what it comes down to at this point. The Rangers are trying to win, and if you're not good, you're gone. That's the way baseball goes sometimes, even if there's a lot of sentimental value, even if you have provided a whole lot of value over the last few years. And even if, in the past, Dane Dunning could have been a really good depth option, was a really good depth option, and gave the Rangers a lot of, decent innings. But no more is the time for just decent innings. The Rangers need straight up good innings, or at least mediocre innings, and at this point, unfortunately, Dane Dunning is not able to provide those. But one guy who I think is going to provide quite a few quality innings this year is Jack Leiter. In his final start of the spring, he was out there shoving for the most part, getting a little lucky to only give up 3 runs in that 6 innings of work. But I mean, what I saw from Jack, staying in the zone with the fastball and ramping that fastball up to 100 miles an hour. We had not seen that at all this spring. I don't think we'd seen that ever. Maybe he'd thrown 100 miles an hour at some point with Vanderbilt, or I doubt in high school, but maybe at some point with Vanderbilt they're on some backfield, something that nobody had a radar gun for. But this is the first time in a game, any kind of professional game that I've seen from Jack Leiter, and I've seen the vast majority of Jack Leiter's games, where he actually touched 100. Early this spring, he had gotten to 99.9 miles an hour, I believe at least twice, maybe 3 times. But then he comes out, hits 100 on the dot in, I believe, the first inning, and I thought, oh, okay, wow, that's new. Good for you, Jack. Good for you, cracking 100 miles an hour. And then he does it again 4 straight times to one hitter, going as high as 100.6 miles an hour, which makes the radar gun show 101 miles an hour. He did 4 straight pitches and all foul balls. Actually, excuse me. One of them was a swing and a miss. One of them was a ball. 2 of them were fouled off. And then he threw a slider at around 89 up in the zone and got a swinging strikeout, because when you're geared up for 101 miles an hour, even if you hang a slider that high in the zone, you're just so sitting on it, especially when it's 4 pitches in a row. It was just a lot of smart pitching from Jack. He didn't strike out as many as he usually does, just 4 strikeouts in 6 innings. Only allowed 1 walk, was in the zone significantly more. He was getting hit hard a little bit. I mean, right now, in that start, he was in the zone 51% of the time. The league average is around 48-ish%. He had been closer to 38 to 40. So he was a little bit too wild. And, in this game, he allowed a little bit too much hard contact. The changeup isn't getting as much swing and miss. It's a good pitch. I think he's throwing it a lot more in spring training than he'll throw it in an actual game, just trying to get that feel for it because it is a new pitch. And I think the pitch mix will look different when he's in a game that actually matters. But he threw 84 pitches, and this one got 6 innings, allowed 3 runs. And if that's the kind of starts that Jack Leiter is providing at the big league level this year, the Rangers will absolutely take that. They need innings. They need at least league average innings, and right now I think Jack Leiter can give them that. I also think Kumar Rocker can give them that. We'll talk more about that later on. But if you listen to, I believe it was Thursday's show, maybe it was Friday's show. No, it was Friday's show, where I was talking about Kumar Rocker taking those next steps. And all spring I've been saying these guys, they might not be quite ready just yet, but if they aren't, then they're not that far off. And in these final starts for both the Vandy boys, both Jack and Kumar, they started doing the things that I've been wanting to see from them all spring long, the things that they have been needing to do to take that next step as a pitcher, to at least be a quality back-end rotation guy, which eventually you'd like them to be more than that. Eventually, I think both of them can be more than that, but at this point in the Rangers' competitive window, with the injuries to John Gray, with the injury to Cody Bradford, with them not throwing that many outings of Jacob deGrom, being, really careful with him, maybe not with Tyler Mahle, probably not with Nathan Eovaldi, but just because there's no depth behind them, especially with this Dane Dunning move, they need to be at least quality. And I think right now they are. I'm talking about exactly how quality they can be and make some bold predictions for this 2025 Rangers team. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers a NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients is also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Got all kinds of great stuff right now. The strawberry limeade, this pre-workout, has been so freaking good. Been trying it out this last week, and it is just so good. It's good for you. It's clean. There's no GMOs. There is no artificial nothing in there. It is just clean, good, just ingredients. So go to justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow just.ingredients on Instagram. Shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back and I'll have 5 burning questions the Rangers have to answer this season. Now, let's get to my 5 bold predictions. Last year, I got to be honest with y'all. My bold predictions, they were a bit too bold. They were just significantly too bold, and I think I went 0 for 5 on all 5 of my bold predictions last year. Number 1, I said Wyatt Langford starts the All-Star game, wins Rookie of the Year, and earns MVP votes. Yeah, no, 0 for 3 on that. 2, Scherzer and DeGrom combined for 30 regular season starts. Both are fully healthy come playoff time. Well, they did not combine for 30 starts, but at least Jacob DeGrom was fully healthy come playoff time. It didn't matter because the Rangers were in the playoffs, but, not completely wrong on that one. But if we're just going hit or miss, that one is a miss. And so was number 3. I said Jose Leclerc was going to become a top 5 closer in baseball. The Rangers did have a top 5 closer in baseball. It was not Jose Leclerc. It was the number 2 closer in all baseball, Kirby Yates. So that's a big swing and a miss. Number 4, Josh Young, Jonah Heim combined for 60-plus home runs and both win Silver Sluggers. No, very wrong on that one. And oh my goodness, number 5, this was a strong 0 for 5 on this one. Adolis Garcia finishes top 5 in MVP voting and establishes himself as one of MLB's best players. Nope. Didn't do that. So that was a big old 0 for 5 last year. I just wanted some transparency before I go 5 for 5 this year and totally redeem myself. Maybe not. I don't know. I was feeling very bold last year, and I'm feeling pretty bold this year. Because number 1, I say Jacob deGrom makes 25-plus regular season starts and starts Game 1 of the Rangers' postseason run. Whether that's in the wild card round, whether that's in the ALDS after the Rangers have clinched a division and a top 2 record in the AL. I'm not quite sure at this point. I could venture a guess there, but we're just going for Jacob deGrom staying healthy. One of the things that he's worked on this preseason, what am I talking about? Spring training, and really last year as well, is just limiting that velocity a little bit. In 2021 and in 2022, and heck, even in 2023, maybe a little bit in that COVID-shortened 2020 season, Jacob deGrom was chucking absolute heater fire gas, sitting up there in the upper 90s, around 98, 99 miles an hour with that four-seam fastball. The slider was averaging 92.5 miles an hour. That's a lot of stress and strain on the arm, on anybody, but especially a guy in his mid-30s who, while he does have the tallness that you like in an ace kind of a build, does not have quite the thickness, the bulk, the Justin Verlander-ish type of build to withstand that level of of strain on his arm for not just 30 starts, but 200-ish innings. I mean, he was very, very durable from basically the time that he came up all the way through 2020. It was a shortened season, but he still made all those starts. He made all his starts in 2018, 2019 as well. He, I think, should have won 3 straight Cy Young Awards. Only won 2 straight Cy Young Awards, but now he's not throwing as hard. And he has such impeccable command that even if he's only sitting, 96, 97. Last year he was sitting around 97.3 in his 3 big league outings. That was basically 2-ish miles an hour down from where he had been in years past. But I think that's going to help him stay more durable, healthy throughout the entirety of the season. He wants to make 30 starts. I think he can. I'm still being bold and saying 25 plus because it has been so long since Jacob deGrom has thrown even 20 plus starts in a season. It's been since 2019. I mean, the most he's thrown was 15 starts in 2021. He had 92 innings that year. He had a 1.08 ERA, and he was untouchable when he was on the mound. But Jacob deGrom, I'm sure, is sick of that qualifier of the best pitcher in baseball when he's healthy. He just wants to go back to being the best pitcher, and he thinks this is the way to go about it. The Rangers are also going to be very careful with him in not just limiting his pitch count, but his innings and worrying about the stress of each of those pitches. He's going to pitch every 6th day as opposed to every 5th day early on in the season to hopefully get to the point where down the stretch when the Rangers need every single win that they can get, or maybe by then the Rangers will have run away with the AL West. I'm not thinking that's particularly going to be the case, but when those starts start to matter just a little bit more down the stretch and in the postseason, which I believe the Rangers will most definitely be getting back to this year, they can have Jacob deGrom without limits. So just say, hey, you go out there and you do you. We're going to start you like there is no tomorrow, because at that point there kind of won't be. This is going to be his age 37 season. He has already had 2 Tommy John surgeries, and you don't really get a third one, especially not when you're in your age 37 season. It does not happen. But I think that he has learned from what has happened to his body. He's been trying his best to take care of his body. I feel very confident in the Rangers' health staff of keeping him healthy, their doctors, their trainers, their medical staff, all of that. I feel very confident in the plan the Rangers have. They haven't shared specifically with me exactly what it's going to look like. I think that's a little bit rude, but, understandable. But I feel like Jacob deGrom is going to finally be healthy this year. And if he makes 25 plus starts, I don't see a scenario where the Rangers miss out on the postseason. They just don't. Even if those starts are going 4, 5, maybe down the stretch, closer to 6 or 7 innings. I think the Rangers won all 6 games that Jacob deGrom pitched in 2023. I don't remember what the record was in the 3 games that he pitched in 2024. I think that they won a couple of them, but honestly, I cannot remember what the Rangers' record was in those games down the stretch because they didn't particularly matter, and they were also basically just rehab starts at the big league level. But when he was a full go, when he was fully Jacob deGrom in those 6 starts, granted he only got 2 wins in those 6 starts in 2023. The Rangers won all 6 games. They do not make the postseason without those 6 extra wins. The Rangers don't win all 6 of those games if somebody besides Jacob deGrom is starting those games. He is just that important, and I think this is finally the year that he gets back to healthy. He reminds people, hey, I'm not just some fragile guy who spends all the time on the IL. I'm the best freaking pitcher on earth, and I'm going to remind you exactly why. I think we're absolutely going to see that this season, and it is going to be just glorious. The number 2 bold prediction, it is a little similar to a bold prediction I made last season, but I think Wyatt Langford gets MVP votes. I think he has a 30-30 season, 30 home runs, 30 stolen bases. I think he can do it. I think he's going to be absolutely phenomenal this season. I think a lot of the Rangers offense taking that next step last year, the reason there was a lot of high expectations of the Rangers offense last year, because not only in 2023 were they very, very good, they were supposed to get better. Granted, Mitch Garver was gone. I think he was a bigger part of that offense than people really appreciated or anticipated heading into the 2024 season. But you took that offense, basically the only one who was gone was Garver. And, there was a little bit of time period where Robbie Grossman was gone from the 2024 Rangers. He came back I don't think he'll do that again this year. But you looked at that offense and you saw a bunch of young guys who were very, very good. Guys like Josh Young, guys like Evan Carter. You got a full season of Evan Carter. You also added a full season of Wyatt Langford at that DH spot. And the thought was, okay, well, they're just going to be a lot better because you have these 2 top 100 prospects, top 5, top 10 prospects in all of baseball by everyone. You add them in, surely this offense is better. And it didn't bake into account the regression from a lot of different guys. I thought that maybe they were one bat shy. Maybe someone like a Jock Peterson could have helped them a lot last year, but they didn't get that. And I think that this year is going to be the year that Wyatt Langford takes that monster step. I think this is going to be a big reason why this Rangers offense is better than in 2023. Not just because the other additions, but because Wyatt Langford will give them, I think, another legit superstar alongside Corey Seager. His defense was already very good last year. He's incredibly fast. He is hitting the ball a whole lot harder. It seems like he has a much better plan of attack. And I think that, impacting the baseball a whole lot more than he did last year. That was one of the few things that last year I was like, okay, we could see just a little bit more of that power in games from Wyatt Langford. It felt like early on he was just kind of fighting to stay alive a little bit in his at-bats as opposed to having a plan and looking for a certain type of pitch in a certain type of zone, and then once he gets it, attacking it. He was doing a good job of battling off pitches, not expanding the zone, but when he would get some of those gift pitches early on, he just was not taking advantage. And then down the stretch, the last month to 6 weeks of the season, he really started doing that. It felt like he felt comfortable in his skin. It felt comfortable in the big leagues and didn't feel overwhelmed by what he was seeing. He crushed left-handed pitching last year. I think he's going to do that again. I think he's going to get better against righties. I think he's hopefully going to get a fairer zone called on him. But when you have that kind of bat speed, that kind of, speed in general, when you make good swing decisions and you have a better plan of attack, that leads to much, much better outcomes. I think he's going to be maybe the best left fielder in baseball next year, partially because I think he's going to be amazing, partially because there's not a whole lot of just great left fielders. But I think this is going to be a big year for Wyatt Langford, and I think that maybe my MVP predictions and All-Star predictions, maybe I was just a year ahead of myself. Coming up, we got 3 more bold predictions that get even bolder than Wyatt Langford getting MVP votes. We're talking about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is here to give you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks you can use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories to even who's cutting down the nets. I was just talking about Wyatt Langford maybe getting some MVP votes. Maybe that's not as crazy as I initially thought. Right now, the favorite Ranger to get MVP votes, to win the MVP, right now, Corey Seager, plus 1,100 to win the AL MVP. That is the 4th best odds. And then Wyatt Langford down there at, let's see, we have 1st, 4th, 7th, not 10th. 11th best odds, plus 5,000, tied with Jarren Duran to win, not just get votes, but win the AL MVP. So go check out all the action on FanDuel.com right now and get on college hoops action all tournament long. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On Thursday's show, I'll be back with Grant Schiller. We will have our full-on season preview, predictions, and, of course, our debutante draft. Now, the number 3 bold prediction I have for the Texas Rangers in 2025 is that not only will Emiliano Teodo be up in the major leagues by July, he will be making high leverage outs. He will be making high leverage appearances in this Rangers bullpen. Now, I like what the Rangers did with their bullpen this offseason. I think a lot of the guys who they got are very good. I really like Chris Young just deciding, hey, we're going to go scattershot at this thing. Instead of giving Kirby Yates $11 million, $10 million, we're going to give 4, 5, 6 guys $12, $15 million and have a bunch of guys who we are sure are not going to be terrible, but are at least going to be solid, because having just 2 exceptional relievers last year and a bunch of not greatness, Jose Leclerc had his moments, but for the most part, not a great season for him or for really anybody else in this pen, not named Kirby Yates or David Robertson. And so the Rangers thought, okay, let's correct that. Let's go the other way. Let's sign a bunch of guys who are going to be solid. Maybe not spectacular, but at least solid, and hope that some of the guys of being pitching depth in this system, like Mark Church, like Emiliano Teodo, like some other guys all the way down through the system, maybe they end up coming up and being elite back end guys. I think that Chris Martin's going to be a solid closer. I don't know that I'd bet my life on him being the closer at the end of the season. I'd feel decently confident about it. But this is his one last ride. This is his one last season before he heads into retirement. And, some of the stuff that Emiliano Teodo is showing out there is good enough to be in a pen right now. The command of it is not sensational, but what he showed this spring was awesome. It was straight up awesome. He's sitting in there in the upper 90s with that fastball, showing what that slurve can do. I mean, he only walked one. He struck out 6 and 4 in the third innings. He only allowed 2 hits and 0 runs, earned or otherwise, in his 5 outings this spring. Emiliano Teodo, that is. I think that Mark Church could end up getting some high leverage innings very early. Teodo hasn't made his big league debut. The Rangers have decided, at least last I heard, that he is going to be a reliever this season, not stay as a starter. And that means that he could honestly be up by the end of May. And if he pitches well and he makes an impact on this Rangers bullpen, he could be getting those high leverage outs by as early as July. There are not a whole lot of guys in this system that sit in the upper 90s with a nasty moving sinker and perhaps the best breaking ball in this entire system. And yes, I am including Mark Church's slider, and I'm also including Jacob deGrom's slider. It is just that disgusting, that slurve, curve, slider, whatever you want to call it. Emilio, just call it good, because that's what it is. Teodo could be one of the better closers in this game in the next couple of years. He is just that good. Maybe the Rangers, after these injuries and after cutting Dane Dunning, maybe they change their mind and say, Teodo, we actually just do need you to start, because I think at his best, he could end up being a number 3 in a rotation. A lot of that depends on him staying in the strike zone more and that changeup being an effective pitch. But if the Rangers are committed to just having him be a reliever, he could be an exceptional one, and he could be exceptional pretty darn quickly. Actually, that was the number 4 pick. We're going back to the number 3 bold prediction. It's about the Vandy boys. Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker will combine to make 40-plus starts this year. That's right, I said it. 40-plus starts combined from Rocker and Leiter. I think these guys are just straight up ready. I think eventually one of them could move to more of a long man in a pen role, a multi-inning reliever for this year, just because eventually they will hopefully get back Cody Bradford and John Gray. I think both those guys are better options for the Rangers. At this point, if both of them were healthy, Leiter and Rocker would not be in the big leagues to start the season. But John Gray is going to be out until probably June, and Cody Bradford is going to be out till probably May. So you have about a month for those guys to go out there and impress. And as nice it is to have a guy like Patrick Corbin, who has been healthy for basically almost a decade. He has barely missed any time since 2017. He's not good. And you would like these two guys to be better than him. And I think they are. I think that the reason they signed a guy like Corbin, he could end up being the Rangers' long man, or maybe that ends up being somebody else in this pain. Maybe that ends up being Patrick Murphy. Maybe it ends up being Adrian Hauser. I don't know. But I think that Rocker is not that far away. And once he is ready, he is going to stick in this Rangers rotation. Now, how long do they let him go in those starts? How frequently is he throwing those starts because of the injuries? I'm not particularly sure. But I think Rocker's going to get to a point where this year he's going to be better than those other options. He might be better than John Gray by the end of this year. He might be better than Cody Bradford by the end of this year. His ceiling is certainly higher than both of their ceilings, but I think that they are going to get this opportunity. They're going to run with it. There are going to be some rough starts for both these guys. There are going to be some starts for both these guys give up 3 home runs and 5 runs in like a 3-inning span, and it's going to get ugly at times. But it's not going to be the majority of times. Eventually, that's going to get ironed out. I'm hoping. I'm thinking. I'm feeling confident about both these guys and their futures and their presence, because the future is nice. It's nice to dream of what these guys might be someday down the road. But for right now, for this competitive window to stay open right now, you can't really think about, eventually Jack Leiter might be a number 2 and Kumar Rocker might be an ace. You need them to be at least solid right now. Work through, be able to, not have enough bumps that they can't work through it at the big level. And I think they're there. I think they are there right now. I feel very confident in what these guys are going to do this season. At some point, one or both of them may be out of the starting rotation, but I think the Rangers are going to need them each at least 15 starts, and I think that one or both of them are going to be good enough that they force themselves to stay in the rotation because they are the best options for at least another 5 to 10 starts. So 40 starts combined for the Vandy boys. I feel pretty darn confident about both of them crushing it this year. They didn't have the best springs, or at least Rocker didn't, but they finished off on such a strong note that I am feeling very confident about what they will do for the Texas Rangers, not just now, but also for the future, but also, more importantly, for right now. And the number 5 thing I am predicting for the Texas Rangers, bold thing I am predicting for the Texas Rangers in 2025, is that this is going to be the best offense in the American League. I would say all of Major League Baseball. I think the Dodgers had that covered when you signed 3 MVPs, and then the whole rest of the roster is built out with a bunch of pretty darn good players, all-stars or fringe all-stars. It's going to be hard for the Rangers to beat that. With some of the injuries to Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, maybe the Rangers do end the year as the best offense in baseball, but I feel pretty confident in saying the Rangers will be the best offense in the American League. The depth, the top-end talent, if Wyatt Langford has that breakout season, if we get to see a season from Marcus Semien where he's closer to a top 3 MVP type of player that he has been in all of the odd seasons since 2019, then this is going to be an exceptional player. Not just a decent player, this is going to be an exceptional player. Remember, every odd year since 2019, he has finished top 3 in MVP voting. In 2019, finished 3rd. In 2021, he had the best season we've seen from any second baseman ever with Toronto. Not just with Toronto, but in the history of baseball. That was one of the greatest second baseman seasons we've ever seen. Then he signed a contract with the Texas Rangers. Didn't have the best 2022, but in 2023, finished top 3 in MVP voting. We're in an odd year. We had even year magic from Bruce Bochy in San Francisco. Maybe we have odd year magic from both Bruce Bochy and from Marcus Semien in Texas. I'm feeling confident about a bounce back from him and just the rest of this offense. Adding those pieces like Jake Berger, like Jock Peterson, to where if other guys who had down years in 2024 stay down, then the Rangers have some built-in options to buoy that offense up. Guys who I don't feel like there's going to be any version of Jock Peterson that's not at least a pretty good hitter. Kyle Higashioka coming off of a career season. If there is more regression from Jonah Heim, then Higgy just gets the bulk of the starts, and hopefully he can just keep on doing what he did last year. Jake Berger, as much as I love Nathaniel Lowe, he did not hit for power, did not hit fastballs well. The Rangers wanted to improve that a lot this offseason. I think Berger gives them that. I think that having a healthy season from Josh Young will really, really improve things. And even if he's not healthy, they still have that insane depth of Josh Smith, who is a borderline all-star player himself. Plus, I think Adolis Garcia is going to have a monster year with how locked in he's looked in the back half of spring training. I am so high on this offense to the point where it might not even matter what's going on with this pitching staff. The Rangers might just be like the Rangers of old and hit their way through all their problems. This is going to be a fun season. I hope I go 5 for 5 in these bold predictions, but hey, even if I don't, it's still going to be an incredibly fun season of Locked On Rangers and Texas Rangers baseball. That's going to do it for today. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.